Hey, hey. Is that my cue to welcome the guests, Stanley? Hey. For those of you tuning in, welcome to this virtual open house brought to you live from the School of Journalism and Communication at Carleton University. Um, I am going to be joined by several colleagues and other guests to help answer questions and give everyone tuning in an introduction to the Bachelor of Journalism program and Bachelor of Journalism and Humanities here at Carleton. Um, my name is Randy Boswell. I'm an associate professor here at the school, a long-time newspaper journalist during my career. And I have the job of being the undergraduate supervisor here in journalism. And so, for anyone who is wishing to inquire about the program, and then once you're here to help you through course selection and all the decisions that you make academically, I'm your man. And I am assisted in those efforts by Pawasha Aussie. She's not here today, but she's the undergraduate administrator. And between the two of us, we can answer any questions that you may have about the program, about the requirements and deadlines and all of that kind of stuff that you may be contemplating as you think about your university career. Stanley, you can move a few of these slides down now. Maybe to the first one showing the Carleton University's 75th anniversary. There we go. So this is the home of the School of Journalism. It's the Richcraft Hall on the Carleton campus. We have been around for 75 years, not in this exact location, but the school was founded just after the end of the Second World War. And it has become I would say, a flagship program of Carleton University, and certainly in terms of journalism across Canada, it's the best known school, and of course, the first one. Go ahead, Stan. Over the years, we actually just celebrated our 75th anniversary last year with a number of events and activities. The program over the years has graduated close to 6,000 people in both our Bachelor of Journalism and our Master of Journalism programs. You can go ahead, Stan. Some of the best known journalists in the country actually will be fairly familiar to many of you tuning in. For example, Nala Ayed, well-known CBC correspondent, and now the host of CBC's Radio Ideas, Rosemary Barton, CBC's chief political correspondent, and a number of other very high-profile broadcast journalists, print journalists in Canada and across North America and elsewhere. Essentially, the School of Journalism at Carleton University has always been a bit of a beacon in terms of the profession in this country. And we have a very illustrious lineup of alumni that I'll come back to later in the presentation. Go ahead, Stan. You can move it up a few. You can go ahead again. So, the setting for Carleton University, I know a number of you will be from perhaps outside of the Ottawa area, but Ottawa-Gatineau is a really beautiful city to go to university in. I know a number of you may also be from the area and know this very well, but it is a city that's a nice size in terms of population, but also has an incredibly rich array, partly because this is the capital city of the country, of cultural institutions, important political bodies, of course. And it just happens to be a city that is in a beautiful natural setting. So it's a pretty wonderful place to attend university. There's a few slides here we can just flash through pretty quickly, Stan, but it just gives a flavor for the attractions in this city, as I mentioned, sort of arts, culture, and recreational activities and so forth. And there you go, a nice shot of the Gatineau Hills, which we're so proud of for its beautiful colors. If you just think about the campus itself, the Richcraft Hall is situated on the banks of the Rideau River, and the campus itself is sort of wedged between the Rideau River and the Rideau Canal. A beautiful, verdant setting, very compact, actually. Carleton is like a little city within the city of Ottawa, and again, a beautiful place to attend university. Richcraft Hall is one of the newer buildings on campus, and that is the home of the School of Journalism. It's got all kinds of state-of-the-art facilities, and you'll see there's a couple of other slides here that we can show you, just giving a sense of the modern interior, and some of the state-of-the-art facilities for journalism instruction, including a broadcast studio, a radio audio studio, multimedia spaces, basically laboratories for students to learn journalism with hands-on instruction. One of the big attractions of the journalism program is that this is experiential learning. And so you get to learn by doing, as this slide that's taken right off of our website shows. Go ahead, Stan. By the time you get to the senior ranks of the Bachelor of Journalism programs, you're doing journalism quite frequently, and not just journalism for classroom purposes, but you're producing content that is available to the public, producing stories for example, our flagship news publication, Capital Current, that covers events in and around Ottawa and beyond. And then there are comparable public-facing publications in audio and video. So, as I say, a big benefit of our program is that you are doing actual journalism throughout your time in the program. So it's a big benefit for students, charting a career path in that. A lot of what I'm saying today and a lot of the information that you're able to follow up on is available through our website, which, again, you can just scroll ahead, Stanley, offers a pretty good glimpse of the kinds of activities that are happening at the school, major announcements about changes in staffing and research projects, what our students are doing, what our alumni are doing. This is a very busy place with a lot of major events that happen in terms of conferences, special appearances by, significant Canadian journalists. A lot of that brought to you by the head of our program, Professor Alan Thompson. I'm going to introduce him briefly and then let him join in this conversation. Alan's a longtime journalist with the Toronto Star, been an instructor here at the journalism school since 2003. And one of the highlights, I would say, of his time here at Carleton is that he developed an opportunity for students to do reporting internships internationally in the Global South. And I think he may talk about that a little bit here. Go ahead, Stanley. There's a few more slides celebrating Alan before he takes the podium. This is actually the moment when we were celebrating our 75th anniversary just last fall. Go ahead. This is a shot of Alan in Rwanda, where many Carleton journalism students over the years have been involved in internships. And one more. This is just Alan in his office probably a few months ago. Anyway, I'm going to hand it over to Alan Thompson, the director of our program, who can provide a few words of welcome. Alan, please.
Great. Randy, thank you. I'll be relatively brief so we have some time for questions. When you saw that picture of the building from the outside with all the glass windows, I'm standing inside looking out those glass windows and looking out at the Rideau River. I am reminded we are situated on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation here in Ottawa, and very much aware of that every day and everything that we do. I can't think of a better time to be looking at a career in journalism. Maybe that's not what some of your friends and family are telling you, but I just think this is a remarkable period to be exploring journalism and the role that journalists can play in our society. Think about the last 18 months, the role that journalists have played in helping people to navigate really one of the most major global crises of our times with the pandemic. We as a society are also experiencing a real reckoning around race, around equity, diversity, inclusion. We have felt that also here at Carleton. We have acknowledged the systemic racism that has been part of what we have been doing at Carleton in those last 75 years. And that has to change, and it is changing. Also, you get a chance to confront issues of our time, issues like climate change. We have some real experts in our faculty. You're going to hear from Sarah Evarts, who is an expert in the field of science journalism. You can explore these burgeoning areas in our program. Randy's going to talk more a bit later about the curriculum, about the courses that we do. I think a really important thing that we need to keep stressing is that for people who find themselves trying to make a choice, like, do I do political science or do I do journalism? Do I do, you can do both. Our program has been designed so that you can complete virtually any double major of your choosing. And I don't think we underline that enough for people. The reason we've been doing this in a university setting for more than 75 years, we want those entering the field of journalism to have a well-rounded university education and have a specialization on top of the journalism knowledge, the journalism skills that we can deliver in our program, have a really deep knowledge of another field that they can go out and apply. So that is something that you can do at Carleton. And over and above what happens in the classroom, we try to find every opportunity, and the pandemic has put the squeeze on some of this, but every opportunity to get out in the community, out in the real world with your classwork, with opportunities for experiential learning. As Randy mentioned, I've been running a program for 15, 16 years now that has sent hundreds of Carleton journalism students to the Global South on media internships. That was suspended because of the pandemic, but I'm very confident it will return. Ideally this coming summer for our current students, but certainly for those entering our program, there will be opportunities to go abroad and to explore the role that journalists can play in the Global South and confronting issues like climate change. It's a very real, probably one of the most important challenges of our time. So I thank you for joining us, for considering Carleton, and really all I want to say, and I'm going to stick around to see your questions, but get in touch anytime. We are all completely reachable. We are literally all sitting with our phones waiting for you to contact us. And our emails are public. There are names. So I'm at alan.thompson@carleton.ca. And don't hesitate at all to reach out if you have a question about the program, about Carleton, about how we might compare with another institution. There's a lot of good journalism schools in Canada, and I think we all have something to offer. And Carleton's particular package is our campus, our faculty, our resources, our facilities, our city, the nation's capital. But our major asset are our students. I think because we are the original journalism school, we attract some of the best students in the country, and they will be your peers and your colleagues here at Carleton. So I'm going to stick around and see what kind of questions that you have. And again, thanks for tuning in. Randy, back to you.
Thanks, Professor Thompson. Much appreciated. We're actually at a good slide right there, because it's one of the things that Alan just mentioned is that one of the attractions of this program is that you not only get journalism training, you also get the opportunity to get a broad academic education. And that is something that was built in right from the very beginning of this program back in 1945. Go ahead, Stan. There's a couple of more slides to this effect. Basically, what it amounts to is that you take 8 core journalism credits over the course of your time, your 4-year degree. That's basically 16 courses overall in journalism. But you take another 12 credits or 24 courses in other fields, including a specialization in a particular area. That's for most students who do a Bachelor of Journalism. If you flip the slide, Stanley, you'll see that there's a wide variety of different options in terms of fulfilling this kind of broad journalism plus approach. And one of those programs is actually the Bachelor of Journalism and Humanities. I'm going to go ahead, Stanley, to the next slide. So you can combine journalism with a whole bunch of different subjects. Usually you specialize in one particular area. But the Bachelor of Journalism and Humanities is one that offers actually a combination of journalism and a number of specific subject areas. And I'm going to let my counterpart as the undergraduate supervisor, essentially in the College of Humanities, Jeffrey Kello, an opportunity to talk a little bit about the Journalism and Humanities program. Professor Kello.
Thank you, Professor Boswell. So yes, I'm Randy's equal and opposite number in the College of the Humanities, and we offer a joint degree with journalism. As I won't get into the mechanics of it, but as the slide showed, there's some tricky bits about applying, but they're not hurdles; they're just a little bit different. And there's a picture of me from when I was younger.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Our program is if you look it up on the Carleton website, it says a great books program. What it really is a liberal arts education. So it's not just the great books of the West, which is often what great books tends to be conflated with, and it's also not just books. What it offers over the course of 4 years is a range of disciplines, 2 disciplines each year over 4 years. Also moving through time from the earliest attempts of human beings to make inquiries into their place in the world in some sort of permanent form. So we read things like the Epic of Gilgamesh in first year, up to the present. And in each year, we move forward a little bit in time, and we change disciplines. So in first year, an expert on Hinduism and Eastern religion and an expert on the Hebrew Bible walk students through the Bhagavad Gita, the Tao Te Ching, the Epic of Gilgamesh. Then in second year, students switch forward to the period roughly between the Golden Age of Athens, Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, and Dante in the 13th century. And that course examines the conversation. Those courses examine the conversation between reason and revelation, between philosophy as it was understood primarily in the West and its engagement with the 3 Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Then third year moves us from the Renaissance, so sort of Florence, the Reformation, the Tudors, a whole lot of beheading, and the Enlightenment, which is my field of expertise. And that course is taught by myself. I'm an intellectual historian, and I study the origins of our economic ideas. But I teach that course with an expert on Tudor queens and Shakespeare. And we work together to talk about things like how the emergence of a prosperous middle class changed art and culture, and how art and culture interacted also with the growth of Western colonialism. And then the fourth year is a course on how everything got kind of crazy after the French Revolution up to the present. And that course is taught by a political science professor and an international relations expert. And that course talks about the rise of totalitarian ideologies, and then it ends with the emergence of a kind of, not a new world order, but new thinking about the globe, global thinking primarily, in the aftermath of the Second World War. So the thing I think that, especially when thinking about this in relationship to journalism, in each year you study a different time, but more importantly, you approach it from a different angle. And so the great benefit of a liberal arts education is not that you'll have read Dante and Adam Smith, though that is an unconventional pairing and very good, or the Tao Te Ching and Martin Heidegger, but that you won't succumb to the problem of thinking that when all you have is a hammer, everything is a nail, right? That you've acquired different intellectual skills which allow you to approach problems from different ways and see them from new or unsuspecting angles. So you look at an economic problem and you approach it from the question of culture, right? Which is what we do in my course. So I think it fits really well with journalism because it provides you with an intellectual skill set that allows you to have a big intellectual toolbox with which to unpack whatever question you're concerned with. And I think it's that, just to sort of wrap up, that's the most important thing about our degree. Not that you will have read The Republic and the Tao Te Ching and the Divine Comedy and the Wealth of Nations, but that you will have acquired all the habits of mind that reading these diverse texts and looking at paintings and listening to music allows you to have. And I think that's about, very quickly, that's about the degree in 5 minutes or less.
Right. Thanks, Professor Callow. And I'll just point out that I've included your email address too on that slide, so that anyone who has any inquiries can get in touch with you for further information about the program. Essentially, I should just explain that, there's 2 degrees that emerge essentially from the School of Journalism. That's the Bachelor of Journalism, which is the more conventional approach. And then there's the Bachelor of Journalism Humanities, which is its own degree. But the students within that program actually take all the same journalism courses with the rest of the journalism cohort. They just have a more specialized kind of array of the other part of the degree. So we are partners in the journey, if you like, the two programs.
Sorry, just really quickly, the same goes for our side as well. A humanities and journalism student takes everything with us and everything with the School of Journalism. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks again, Professor Callow. I just wanted to rewind a little bit back to, what the purpose of all this is, which is that people, emerge from the School of Journalism and get their Bachelor of Journalism degrees, or we also have a master's program, and then they go on to often great careers in journalism, and not just in journalism, but also in politics, education, research, etc. So we can flash pretty quickly here, Stanley, just a few of the examples of high-profile individuals who've got a degree in journalism and gone on to, pretty significant careers. There's James Duthie, one of my old classmates from back in the 80s, Kim Brunhuber with CNN, Colleen Thorpe, another from my year of 1989. She's the head of Quebec's largest environmental group. Andre Lau, who is the managing editor of digital news at CBC, and a number of other noteworthy alumni, including Nala, who I mentioned earlier, and Rosemary Barton, I think, is the next slide. High-profile Canadian journalists, really people who've reached the top of the profession. But like I said, there's lots of people who get a journalism degree and go into communications and other areas of professional careers. But the question is, how do you get from where you are now, embarking on your university years, to that kind of high-profile career success? Well, it all begins with your first journalism classes. Not this week, by the way. That slide's a little off. It'll be next year. But if you hit the next slide, Stanley, I'll begin the introduction to Sarah Evarts, who has joined us here. Professor Evarts is a well-known science journalist. She joined as a faculty member in 2019. She's an award-winning science journalist who's published in all kinds of different high-profile publications. She's been in the news a lot this past year because she published a critically acclaimed, probably best-selling, you'll have to update us on that, Sarah, The Joy of Sweat, The Strange Science of Perspiration, a book that has been getting a lot of attention this year. Sarah, you can keep going there, Sten. Sarah has hosted YouTube segments explaining the science of chemistry, has done all kinds of fellowships and publications over the years. And she, those are just a few of the titles of publications that Sarah's published in. And she's done research and spoken about science issues during the pandemic as an expert on how COVID-19 is being understood by the public. Go ahead, Sten. And getting to the key point here, Sarah is the first professor that our first-year students encounter. She teaches the course Journalism 1001, Journalism in Context. And Sarah, maybe this is the moment when I can invite you to tell us a little bit about what that course involves and just generally about students coming and getting oriented in first year.
Yeah, hi. Lovely to meet you all, and I hope we'll get to meet actually in person next fall. So yeah, I teach the first class that journalism students have, and the class kind of looks at how technology has changed how journalism is done, from old school things like the telegraph and printing press to new things like AI, like artificial intelligence, robot reporters, even how TikTok is changing the way journalism is done. And so we talk about that. I make you listen to podcasts. We do a segment called Journo Jargon, where you learn how to sound cool when you talk with journalists. No, seriously, you learn about some of the kind of terminology that we use, like hacks and flacks and clips and things like that. I end up talking a lot about sweat because that was the book that I wrote, and about my life in Berlin. I was, before coming to Carleton, I was a journalist based in Germany for 12 years, where I covered science and technology and had the opportunity to do a lot of traveling. So yeah, so that's me, and I hope to get to meet you in just perhaps a few months.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. And Sarah will be hanging around for a little bit in case people have questions about particularly that first year course, or more generally about science journalism or journalism in general. Go ahead, Stan, you can flash a few more. Okay, I'll quickly move through this. So in the winter term, the professor who teaches the first year course is Brett Popplewell. He's not with us today, but the winter term course, and you can just flip to the last slide here. Brett's a well-known Canadian magazine journalist, award-winning. He also leads our Future of Journalism initiative, which is a research body working on various projects. And Brett is the instructor of Practicing Journalism in a Diverse Society. That's the second part of the first year program. And you'll see here that it just takes the introductory course that Professor Evarts teaches and moves the class a little bit more towards the practical working world of journalism and the challenges facing the profession. Go ahead, Senley, you can move through a few more slides here. Oh, well, we'll stop here. One of the things that's neat about the School of Journalism is this is not only a place where you get your education, you move on your pathway towards a particular degree. We also like to think of this as a community. It's a fairly small faculty in the sense that, there's about between 15 and 20 faculty members. There's at any given time, there is about 500 students within the program, both Bachelor of Journalism and Master of Journalism. But in your own year, your cohort is just about 100 students. And so it's possible to get to know many of the people who are in your year, and certainly many of the professors that you have in your courses. By the end of the 4 years, you're operating pretty much on a first name basis, because we get to know pretty much everybody over the course of that time. So one of the things that is available to first-year students and then throughout the program is joining the Journalism Society. And we happen to have the president of the Journalism Society here today, Pascal. Could you please join in and talk a little bit about JSOC?
Sure. So hi, everybody. It's lovely to meet you all virtually. So like Randy said, my name is Pascal, and I am this year's president of the Journalism Society. So currently I'm in my car. I was like canvassing for an MPP in Ottawa, but anyways, that's why there's people here from the Ottawa Young Liberals. Anyways, so yeah, I've been a part of JSOC for the entire 4 years that I've been at Carleton. So the Journalism Society is essentially the main academic and social society for journalism. So we plan a variety of social events. So obviously for the past 2 years, most of those have been virtual, but we'll actually be having our first in-person event next week. We'll be going to Gatineau Park and doing a meetup there and doing a hike with a few other folks in the journalism program. But we plan a bunch of things from year events. So events designed specifically for you to get to know other people in your year, to galas. So in a normal year, we'll have one full program gala where anyone in any year can come to a formal dinner. And we also host J-Prom, which is the gala for the graduating class of a given year. So we also, one of our other largest initiatives is Project J, which is an annual writing competition / publication opportunity for students. So we partner with several professional publications, largely within Ottawa, though also across Ontario and a few across Canada, to give journalism students the opportunity to get professionally published, predominantly with pieces that they've written in class. And we have a variety of students who get published from first years to fourth years. We also offer internal prizes for pieces that people have already submitted elsewhere and have been published. Those are more specific categories like best audio piece, best BIPOC piece, those sorts of things. So yeah, and we also, some of our more minor programming as well ranges from merchandise. So we're the ones that design and sell the journalism merchandise, to mentorship blogs. We also put out mentorship blogs to give current and incoming students a bit of information about the program and what they can expect year to year, that maybe is obviously written from a student perspective rather than just the faculty, which can offer a little bit of a different kind of insight. So I think that's everything I have to share with you today. I'll add one more thing too. I am the chair of the board of the student newspaper at Carleton, the independent student newspaper. So I can also answer any questions or talk about that if you guys are interested. If you guys are interested in getting involved with the student paper when you come to Carleton. But in the chat, I'll just put some of our social media handles, including mine and JSOC's and the Charlatans, as well as the Charlatans editor-in-chief, Jillian Piper. So yes, thank you all very much. I guess I'll talk to you guys later during the Q&A.
Okay, thanks, Pascal. Much appreciated. I also wanted to give a chance for Lilo Noort to discuss the Association for Equity and Inclusion in Journalism, which is a relatively new group at the school, essentially focusing on issues related to diversity, anti-racism, and so forth. And Lilo, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a quick overview of that group and opportunities for first-year students actually to become involved.
Yeah, of course. So thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. So my name is Lilo, and I'm the head of communications and public relations. Essentially a fancy way to say I run the social media for AEIJ. I actually am also a member of JSOC, which is super fun, and I love working with Pascal and the JSOC team. But more about AEIJ. Essentially, we are a student-led group dedicated to informing and advising and working with the Carleton journalism program to address issues like racism, ableism, queerphobia, transphobia, and other forms of oppression and microaggressions in journalism and journalism education. We host events like roundtable conversations with racialized journalists, and we work with organizations like the Carleton School, or, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, a little bit tongue-tied this morning. We work with the Alumni Foundation to host mentorship programs. So for example, last year, I actually was mentored by one of the editors for the Wall Street Journal, which is a wonderful, which was like a wonderful opportunity. And a bunch of our other students that are on AEIJ got to partner with amazing alumni from the Carleton School as well. We actually took a brief hiatus for the first half of this semester, but in a few weeks, we're going to be hosting a little bit of a roundtable event so students can meet us and get involved with AEIJ. And yeah, we run just a bunch of really wonderful initiatives for students to find community within the journalism school. And it's a great organization, and I am so happy that I joined it. And if anyone has any questions, whether it be about AEIJ or the School of Journalism, I'm super involved on campus, both in J School and outside of J School. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that as well.
Great. Thanks, Lilo. Much appreciated. Yeah, so feel free as we move towards wrapping up the formal part of the presentation here to ask questions of our student representatives who've been kind enough to join us, because of course they'll have answers that may pertain better to the questions that you have at this stage. Pascal actually just mentioned that the Charlatan is the main campus newspaper, and that's an opportunity that our students in journalism often take on key positions and have all kinds of opportunities above and beyond the publication opportunities within our program to explore journalism and to practically do it for an audience. And so the Charlatan is also a very popular activity, essentially extracurricular for our students. And another thing to keep in mind, too, is that the journalism program, like other programs at Carleton, offer a number of opportunities for exchanges. We often have a number of students, usually in about third year, who will arrange to attend a term of university in another country, sometimes, Britain, Netherlands, other European locations. And so that's all organized under the auspices of the International Students Office on campus. So I'll talk a little bit briefly, I won't take up too much more time before we get to questions, just about how the program works over the course of the 4 years. So as we mentioned, there are 2 courses in first year that students take, including the one that Professor Evarts teaches at the beginning, followed by the one that Professor Popplewell teaches. And in first year, you only have 1 credit out of the 5 credits that is devoted to journalism. The rest is your opportunity to explore those other subjects that ultimately will probably lead to your minor or a potential combined honors. The minor means 4 credits in another subject, and combined honors will be more intensive, like 6 or 7 credits in another subject. And then there's other electives that you can take that don't fall into either of those categories, but you can get a very well-rounded education in subjects outside of journalism as well. So in year 2, can flip, things get a little bit more intense and more practical because you start doing reporting courses. And so, there's a full year course called The Fundamentals of Reporting. Then you get instruction on a range of the multitude, really, of digital tools that help enhance and bolster journalism today, and then as well a half credit course in media law. that gives an overview of the laws and regulations around journalistic activity. And then by third year, there's a lot more specialization offered in terms of audio, visual, and multimedia journalism, as well as in-depth reporting. So learning how to dig more deeply into particular issues to produce analytical journalism and bring more color writing into the process. And then there's also a course that covers the ethics of journalism in a digital world. And then by fourth year, that's sort of a particularly intensive year. There's a wide range of opportunity to, again, specialize in more advanced forms of audio, video, and digital journalism. You can specialize in a range of subjects such as, health and environmental and science journalism, which is one of the courses that Professor Evarts teaches. Things like business and arts and culture. And then there's other areas where you study that are happening in the world of journalism, and that might involve, for example, the transformation that's happening around Indigenous issues and the coverage of those in our country, journalism and conflict in different hotspots around the world. There's sports journalism, a whole array of different subjects where people get the opportunity to specialize. Go ahead, Stan. Again, just a reminder that, in addition to your journalism studies, there are opportunities to specialize in this kind of array of other subject areas. And you can go again. And all of this leads to, obviously, a range of possibilities in terms of the career paths. And our graduates go on to a wide variety of different kinds of careers. Many of our students go into journalism. And by the way, among those who are speaking to you today, myself and Professor Thompson and Professor Evarts, all three of us, in fact, are graduates of the School of Journalism. In my case, several centuries ago. But we happen to go into journalism and then, of course, now into education. But a number of our graduates, end up in the print journalism world. Others go into broadcasting, either radio or television. We have many graduates who go on to careers in digital journalism today. And then, as I mentioned before, a lot of our graduates go into other fields. Where they become teachers, or they become researchers, policy analysts, pollsters. There's all kinds of careers where the skills of communication and research and writing, are highly valued, including in, municipal, provincial, and federal governments. In the city of Ottawa, for example, we actually have 2 members of the city council who are graduates of the School of Journalism. Like I say, people go off into all kinds of different directions. Okay, so we've still got about 15 minutes left in the 2 hours. I think I'll wrap up my discussion at this point. And we can just open it up for any questions either that have been supplied through the chat function here, or any questions people just wish to voice now. Do we have any questions sort of built up over the course of the presentation?
There's one I see one in the chat, Randy, about co-op opportunities. And it's important to clarify, we're not formally a co-op program, right? But we have all kinds of opportunities for experiential learning for our students to get into newsrooms, into the workplace while they are in our program. And a lot of people do look for media-related employment in the summer months. So It's not formally a co-op, because a co-op is a different type of program where you, for credit, spend 6 months or more at a time with an employer. Our program isn't structured that way, but we do try to create lots of opportunities for people to get out into newsrooms and gain experience.
I'll just add to that, Alan. I see there's another question there about talking more about internship opportunities. One of the things that the School of Journalism offers is an apprenticeship program where students in 3rd and 4th year get opportunities to experience a week, 2 weeks, or even 3 weeks or more in a newsroom setting. There's actually a pretty good variety of different opportunities in those apprenticeships that go beyond journalism too. Some people, by the time they reach 4th year, have decided what they want to do is public relations. They want to do communications. So we have options for people to explore work settings such as that through our internship apprenticeship program. We also have a long-standing, relationships with various media organizations. So they are often looking to the latest group of graduates from the School of Journalism when they are thinking about hiring people for summer employment and so forth. And it's worth noting that our own publication, Capital Current, over the past couple of summers has employed a number of our students to keep the publication lively and producing content through the summer. And in fact, in the latest round of that, in this past summer, we had an arrangement with the Ottawa Citizen newspaper, which was publishing content that was produced by our students for Capital Current and republishing it in the Ottawa Citizen. So there are lots of ways in which we have relationships with the professional world that our students can benefit from, including mentorships that I think Pascal mentioned earlier. I've missed a question, I think, somewhere.
Isabel was asking about taking Arabic as a minor. Isabel, I'll try to get back to you on doing languages as a minor, but you can absolutely take many language courses here at Carleton, and you can take Arabic courses at Carleton. Anna Sahafi Kennedy, I started taking them. I'm a Canadian journalist, and I didn't do all that well, but we used to have a formal requirement in the program that students had to take a second language. And this was a legacy of bilingualism in Canada, and many students were encouraged to take French. We're finding a lot of students come into the program already with a second language, and so we thought they should use that half credit to do something else that they want to do. But absolutely, taking languages as coursework alongside journalism is a really good idea.
Yeah. I see there's a question here about sports journalism, and I just wanted to highlight the fact that, yes, we have a course that is dedicated to exploring sports journalism, and that's in the 4th year of the program. But one of the things that's kind of neat about the program, and it's probably true of other journalism programs too, but you get to kind of define what it is that you want to do in most of your classroom assignments from 2nd year on. So I encourage students, I teach workshop courses, and I have over the years of 2nd, 3rd, 4th year, including master students. And one of the things I emphasize is that please, choose subjects for your classroom assignments that you are interested in. So if you happen to have a fascination for sports or the arts, which is often the case for our students, then they are encouraged to do their class assignments, in those areas. So you begin to build that specialization early. Sarah, did you want to weigh in there too?
Oh yeah, I would say not just starting in 2nd year, but in 1st year too. So one of your first assignments for me is to do a presentation on a new hot digital media startup. And a lot of students who are interested in sports choose, for example, The Athletic. I just assigned my students a podcast about the crazy family dynasty of Bret the Hitman Hart. There's plenty of chances to kind of cater your assignments and what you do to whatever you really care about. Like a lot of students are focusing on the environment for some of those same presentations and podcasts. So yeah, anything you're interested in, you can kind of tweak your career here towards that.
Yeah, and one of the things that's emphasized in a lot of our courses too is, a lot of students are interested in social justice issues, we've had lots of students produce their stories, kind of focused around, say, for example, environmental issues, issues around poverty, issues around racial injustice, and so we strongly encourage students to recognize that one of the powerful parts of what journalism is all about, is that it can contribute to the changing of the world. When you raise issues, when you give voice to different types of communities, you are stimulating discussions and debates in society that ultimately ideally lead to change. And so we allow our students to be part of that process. And of course, that is journalism is kind of at the center of that process in many ways. And we begin integration of the work that our students do, as Sarah says, as early as first year, really, when we give students the opportunity to write about what they're passionate about.
I see Maya was asking, is there an investigative journalism program within our degree? By definition, all journalism is investigative. So we are building the skills of investigative journalism right from the start, all the way through the program. In the fourth year, there is a specialized course on investigative journalism currently taught by a former CBC journalist, a guy named David Mackay. And there are courses on data, storytelling, and often investigative reporting will involve crunching data and finding patterns that others have missed. So yeah, we do touch on investigative journalism. Isabel was asking about the conflict journalism course. What does it involve? It can change from year to year. I created that course actually a few years back, so taught it for a few years. It looked at some of the fundamentals of conflict reporting, conflict journalism, covering wars. I would take students on a field trip where we joined a military exercise with D&D, and they were the soldiers and we were the journalists, and we would integrate into that war game exercise. The last couple of years, that course has been taught by a guy named Michael Petru, who was a foreign correspondent, war correspondent for Maclean's magazine. So that's the kind of overarching theme of the course, although increasingly we can look at conflict at any level in society. We could look at issues around disputes within this country and how conflict manifests itself. So that's a course that is available here at Carleton. Just scrolling down to look for other questions.
Yeah, we've just got a few more minutes left. Stanley, can we go right till 3:30?
Yes, Stanley says. Stanley says yes.
I guess a few other things to mention about the program. I mentioned earlier that a lot of employers, who are, from CBC, CTV, Globe and Mail, Toronto Star, in the media world, are looking for graduates of our program to replenish their ranks. And that has certainly extended to, the whole constellation of digital news sites and so forth. Professor Thompson just mentioned David Mackay, who's a former CBC journalist. Well, he now works with the National Observer, one of the leading, digital titles in Canada's media landscape. And so, our program embraces what, have typically been called the legacy media of major news organizations, broadcasters, and so forth. But also, a lot of our graduates are part of the sort of revolutionizing influence of the digital news landscape in Canada. And so you get a full range of exposure to different kinds and different platforms of journalism. And what our approach is at this program is that we try to prepare people to be adaptable to any potential platform. So I ended up as a newspaper journalist back in the 1980s, but I actually learned how to be a TV journalist, how to be a radio journalist at the time. Then they invented computers, and I had to retool a little bit to learn about the digital journalism that emerged. But just giving you a sense that what we do is we don't really stream students into one particular part of the journalism environment. The idea is that everybody gets a holistic education, not just in the different formats for journalistic production, but again, above and beyond journalism, because we offer this, dual stream degree where you're doing journalistic training, but you're also getting a broad liberal arts education. So we think that's an important feature of the program.
Cassandra, I see you asking if something about an enrollment number of 10. Why is it lower than other programs? Does anyone else on the call know what an enrollment number is? I mean, I'm confused by the question. So if we run out of time, email us directly and ask about that. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. Isabel asks if we have any international students in the program. We do, and they make a real contribution both in the undergrad and the MJ program. It's been difficult this year. A few people have been admitted to the program and haven't been able to get here because of the pandemic. And so we've been adapting and using Zoom and a 360 camera called an OWL in the classroom to try and bring people in to the class who can't be there in person, which raises another question no one asked. I mean, right now we're still in the pandemic. We are first part of that pandemic, we taught totally online. We had to adapt, switch everything. This academic year, we've been teaching mostly in person. We are wearing masks and we are physically distanced when we're in the classroom. And students who had a medical reason, a COVID-related concern that prevented them from being in the classroom could ask to take their classes online. In the winter term, we are once again in person, and almost all of our classes are being offered face-to-face. We have some courses that are online only, but a small number. And so by the time you would get here in September, it's been a guessing game the last couple of years, what's going on with COVID. But I'm pretty confident that at a minimum, we will be the way we are now, meeting in person together on campus, still taking precautions around masking and social distancing. So things like that, keep tabs on. So Cassandra came back and said enrollment, how many students you admit into the program. There must be a typo somewhere. We admit around 100 to 120 into our first year Bachelor of Journalism program. And most of those students stay with us throughout the 4 years. So, but that's a good point. If you think there's something confusing on the site, just give us a call.
I think that it looks like it was just a typo. I think, Stanley has indicated there too that, there's usually about 100 Bachelor of Journalism students in first year, a little bit more some years. Depending again on where people direct their applications, the Bachelor of Journalism and Humanities can have as few as a half dozen admissions in first year, or up to 20. We actually in the last year had kind of a spike in the number of people who wanted to try the Bachelor of Journalism and Humanities. So it varies from year to year, but usually there's about 100 or more students who enter first year. And that means that second year, third year, and fourth year also have about 100 students each.
I assume we're winding down, but I wanted to thank everybody for getting on the call. If you're on this call, I assume it's because you're thinking about applying to Carleton to study journalism. So I encourage you, be in touch with us. Any questions you have, If you're in the area, come for a visit. We will be careful, safety-wise, about how we do that, but we do have people physically in the building. If you want to see the facilities more than what you can see here, come and visit. If you can't come and visit and you want me to walk around with my webcam and show you our labs and introduce you to people, I've done that. It's my job to talk to students and prospective students. So don't hesitate at all. Be in touch. Say if you want to give me a call or talk to any of us here at Carleton, because we'd love to have you here.
Yep, thanks. Same thing. Just to reach out, randy.boswell@carleton.ca. And between myself or Pawasha, whose email contact is also easily found on the website, we can help answer any questions you might have about the program, about applications and so forth. And thanks for coming out, and really thanks to my special guests here who helped me along. Really appreciate you guys coming out and helping answer questions and explain the cool stuff happening at our school. And that's it, Stanley. I guess we'll wrap it up. Thanks, folks. Bye.